He was born so small, they thought he wouldn't survive. His mother abandoned him. He was a below-average student until one event changed everything. This is the untold story of Isaac Newton, the lonely boy who became the genius that redefined our universe. For more inspiring stories to help you master English, subscribe now and turn on all notifications so you never miss a lesson. Today, I have a very special story for you. It is the story of a true genius, a man whose incredible mind completely changed the way we understand the universe. Are you ready? Let's begin. Isaac Newton was born on a cold Christmas day, December 25, 1642. He came into the world in a small, quiet village called Woolsthorpe, in a part of England called Lincolnshire. To understand his life, let's try to imagine the world at that time. There were no cars, no electricity, and none of the modern machines we use every day. Life was simple, quiet, and connected to the rhythm of the land. It was a rural life. Isaac's family lived on a small farm. His father, who was also named Isaac Newton, was a farmer. But here, right at the beginning of our story, there is a sad fact. His father passed away just 3 months before Isaac was born. This means that Isaac never had the chance to meet his own father. His mother, a woman named Hannah Askoff, had to raise him all by herself. Life was not easy for her. She had to manage the farm and at the same time take care of her new baby. Isaac was born very, very early. He was a premature baby, which means he came into the world before he was fully ready. He was so small and so weak that for a while people in the village didn't think he would survive. But little Isaac was a fighter. He held on. Slowly, day by day, he grew stronger, though he remained a quiet and thoughtful child. When Isaac was just 3 years old, his life changed again. His mother decided to remarry. She married a wealthy man named Barnabas Smith. But here is the twist in the story, the part that is difficult to understand. Barnabas, her new husband, did not want young Isaac to live with them. And so Isaac was sent away to live with his grandparents. Can you imagine how heartbreaking that must have been for a young boy? He felt abandoned, left behind, and terribly alone. Living without his mother made Isaac even more quiet and introverted. He learned to spend a lot of time by himself. But instead of playing games with the other children in the village, Isaac found his own kind of joy. He loved building things. With his small hands, he made little mechanical toys, windmills that could really turn in the wind, and other clever creations. This shows us how creative and curious he was even as a little boy. Isaac attended the local village school where he showed some interest in reading and learning. But when he turned 12, he was sent to a bigger school, the King's School, in a nearby town called Grantham. Because the town was too far to travel to, every day he stayed with a local family there. At his new school, Isaac was not the best student at first. He wasn't very interested in his schoolwork, and his grades were just average. But then, everything changed. One day, a boy at school bullied him. This boy was bigger and stronger, but Isaac decided he would not be beaten. He decided he would prove he was better not just with his fists, but with his mind. From that moment on, something inside him shifted. He became a hard-working and truly brilliant student. Isaac discovered a deep love for reading. He read every book he could find about science, mathematics, and the stars. He often spent his free time just watching the world around him, observing nature. He watched the movement of water in a stream and studied the behavior of light as it streamed through a window. Little did he know, these simple interests, these quiet moments of observation, would one day make him one of the greatest scientists in the world. When Isaac was 14 years old, another major event happened in his life. His stepfather Barnabas passed away. Isaac's mother decided it was time to bring him back home to Woolsthorpe. Her plan was for Isaac to become a farmer just like his father had been. But Isaac was not interested in farming at all. He found it boring and dull. Instead of tending to the animals or the fields, he spent his time reading books and building his mechanical tools. One day, his uncle, a kind man named Reverend William Ayscough, came to visit. He saw his nephew not in the fields, but sitting under a tree, completely lost in a book. His uncle noticed Isaac's powerful intelligence. He believed that Isaac was meant for something much greater than farming. With his uncle's help and encouragement, Isaac was allowed to return to school. He worked harder than ever and deeply impressed his teacher. By the time he was 18, Isaac was ready for the next big step in his life. He was admitted to Trinity College at the famous University of Cambridge. This was the true beginning of his journey toward greatness. At that time, Cambridge was a place for learning about philosophy, religion, and the basic sciences. But the world was changing. People were starting to explore new exciting ideas about the universe. This period was known as the Scientific Revolution, and Isaac Newton would soon become one of its brightest stars. At Cambridge, life was not easy. To earn money for his education, Isaac worked as a type of servant. He cleaned rooms, served meals at tables, and helped other students. But Isaac didn't mind the hard work. He was there for one reason: to learn. He loved learning and spent almost all of his time studying. His favorite subjects were mathematics, astronomy, and physics. He read the books of great thinkers like René Descartes and Galileo Galilei. But Isaac didn't just read these books, he questioned them. He wanted to understand the world in his own way, with his own mind. One of his favorite things to do was to look up at the sky on a clear night. He would watch the stars and wonder, how do the planets move, and why do objects always fall down to the ground? These simple-sounding questions would later lead to his greatest discoveries. In the year 1665, when Isaac was 23 years old, a terrible disease called the Great Plague spread across England. It was a dangerous time. To keep everyone safe, the university had to close its doors. Isaac had to return to his family home in Woolsthorpe. This time, away from Cambridge, which seemed like a problem, turned out to be a blessing. Alone on the quiet farm, Isaac had more time to think deeply about the universe. He later called this period his Year of Wonders, and for a very good reason. While he was at home, Isaac conducted many experiments. The most famous story from this time is about an apple. One day, as he was sitting in the garden under an apple tree, he saw an apple fall to the ground. It was a simple, everyday event. But for Isaac, it sparked a huge idea. He started to wonder, why does the apple fall straight down? Why doesn't it fall sideways, or even go up? He realized that there must be a force pulling the apple toward the ground. And then came the brilliant leap of his imagination. He wondered if the same force that pulls the apple to the ground might also be the force that controls the movement of the moon around the Earth and the planets around the sun. He called this invisible force gravity. This simple idea was the seed that would grow into his famous law of universal gravitation. During this incredible time at Woolsthorpe, Isaac also began working on something completely new: calculus. Calculus is a type of very advanced mathematics that helps us understand things like motion change and speed. Isaac's work in calculus would later become one of his most important contributions to the world of science. Imagine that for a moment. A young man sitting alone in the quiet countryside creating a whole new branch of mathematics. It's incredible to think about how his mind worked. When the plague finally ended in 1667, Isaac returned to Cambridge. His brilliance was clear to everyone. He became a fellow of Trinity College, which meant he was officially recognized as a brilliant thinker. Just 2 years later, in 1669, at the young age of 27, he was appointed as the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics. This was one of the most respected and important positions in the entire university. As a professor, Isaac continued to explore his ideas. He built his own tools. He performed careful experiments, and he wrote down all of his findings. He didn't enjoy teaching large classes of students. He preferred to focus on his own research. Around this time, Isaac became fascinated with light. He wanted to understand what light really is. Using a simple glass object called a prism, he discovered something amazing. Isaac found that the white light we see every day is not just one color. It is actually made up of many colors, like a rainbow. When white light passes through a prism, it splits into red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. This discovery changed the way people thought about light and colors forever. He also built the world's first reflecting telescope. This new kind of telescope used mirrors instead of glass lenses. It was smaller, but much more powerful than other telescopes at the time. This was a huge achievement and helped Isaac gain recognition and respect from other scientists. By his early 30s, Isaac Newton was no longer just a curious student. He was becoming one of the greatest minds of his time. His discoveries in gravity mathematics and light were truly revolutionary. People were beginning to see him as a true genius. However, Isaac was not an easygoing man. He was very private and did not like to share his ideas quickly. He wanted to be absolutely sure that everything he discovered was perfect before he showed it to the world. This perfectionism sometimes made his life difficult, but it also ensured that his work was of the very highest quality. He preferred working quietly and tried to avoid the spotlight. But this was about to change. A challenge from another scientist would soon push him to reveal his genius to the entire world. During this time, a well-known scientist in England named Robert Hooke was also studying the motion of planets. Hooke believed he had figured out the secret of how planets move around the sun. He suggested that a force similar to gravity might be responsible. But Hooke's ideas were not complete. He couldn't prove them with mathematics. When Newton heard about Hooke's claims, he was intrigued. Newton had already done the difficult work on gravity many years earlier, but he had kept it private. He decided it was finally time to put all of his ideas into writing. Newton worked day and night refining his theories. He wanted to prove without any doubt that gravity was the key to understanding the entire universe. He used his new mathematics calculus to calculate how gravity affects the Moon, the Earth, and all the other planets. His work showed that gravity isn't just a force here on Earth. It is a universal law that works everywhere. In 1687, at the age of 45, Newton published his masterpiece. It was a book called Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, which is often just called the Principia. This book changed the world. In it, he explained his 3 laws of motion and the law of universal gravitation. Here are Newton's famous 3 laws of motion. Explained simply. First, an object will stay still or keep moving in the same direction unless an outside force acts on it. Second, the more force you apply to an object, the faster it will accelerate or move. And third, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. These simple laws helped people understand how everything in the universe works, from falling apples on Earth to the beautiful silent dance of the planets in space. The Principia was not just a book. It was a revolutionary moment in the history of science. It made Newton famous across all of Europe. Scientists, philosophers, and even kings and queens admired his genius. While the world celebrated Newton's brilliance, his personality remained much the same. He was still a quiet, reserved man who preferred to work alone. He rarely smiled and was known for being extremely focused. He would sometimes spend hours or even days working to solve a single problem without stopping to eat or sleep. Newton's perfectionism was both a strength and a weakness. It made his work flawless, but it also caused tension with other scientists. He did not like criticism and often argued fiercely with anyone who challenged his ideas. In 1696, Newton took on a surprising new role. He became the warden of the Royal Mint, the organization responsible for making all the coins in England. At that time, making fake counterfeit coins was a very big problem, and the country's economy was suffering. Newton brought his sharp mind and his incredible attention to detail to this new job. He was not just a scientist anymore. He became a kind of detective. He investigated the counterfeiters and introduced new methods to improve the quality of the coins. Thanks to his efforts, the Royal Mint became much more efficient, and the problem of fake money was significantly reduced. In 1703, Newton was elected as the president of the Royal Society, the most prestigious group of scientists in England. This position cemented his reputation as the greatest scientist of his time. A year later, in 1704, Newton published another major book called Optics. In this book, he explained all of his discoveries about light and color in great detail. He also included his ideas about the nature of the universe, showing his endless curiosity and imagination. Then, in 1705, Newton received a great honor. He was knighted by Queen Anne, earning him the title Sir Isaac Newton. This was a rare honor, and it showed how much his work was valued not just by scientists, but by the whole of society. Newton's brilliance, his hard work, and his determination had transformed him into a living legend. As Isaac Newton grew older, his life began to take a different turn. By the early 1700s, he was no longer the young, curious scientist working tirelessly in his quiet room. By the time Newton was in his 60s, he was widely regarded as a genius. However, fame came with its own set of problems. While many people admired him, others envied him. Newton often found himself in arguments with other scientists who claimed credit for some of his discoveries. One of the most famous disputes was with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, a German mathematician. Both Newton and Leibniz had worked on developing calculus, but they had developed their methods independently on their own. When Leibniz published his work, some of Newton's supporters accused him of copying Newton's ideas. This led to a bitter rivalry between the two great men, a conflict that lasted for many years. Newton's perfectionism and his stubbornness made these conflicts even worse. He could not tolerate being criticized and often spent years of his life defending his work. While these arguments took a toll on his mental and emotional health, they also showed his powerful determination to protect his legacy. In his later years, Newton also became a mentor to younger scientists. Many people came to him for advice and guidance. Newton was happy to share his knowledge, but he also set very high standards for those he helped. He believed in the power of hard work discipline and endless curiosity. One of his most famous quotes was, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." What he meant was that he acknowledged the important contributions of the great thinkers who came before him. He believed that progress in science was a team effort, even though he himself often worked alone. Newton spent his last years living in London. He was financially secure and very well respected, but he never married, and he never had any children. He devoted his final years to studying the Bible, reflecting on his long life, and continuing his research. Even in old age, Newton's mind remained as sharp as ever. He would often tell visitors stories about his discoveries and how he overcame great challenges. He wanted young people to understand the importance of perseverance and curiosity. Sir Isaac Newton passed away on March 20th, 1727, at the age of 84. His death marked the end of an extraordinary life, but his legacy was just beginning. Isaac Newton's contributions to science and mathematics transformed the way we understand our universe. His discoveries laid the foundation for modern physics, engineering, and astronomy. His laws of motion and gravity are still taught in schools all over the world today. Calculus became a critical tool for scientists, engineers, and economists. And his work on light and optics revolutionized our understanding of vision and color. Newton's influence extended far beyond science. He inspired countless individuals to think differently, to work harder, and to never stop asking questions. His life was proof that curiosity combined with hard work and resilience can truly change the world. Isaac Newton's story is not just about science, it's about the human spirit. And there are some powerful lessons we can all learn from his life. First, curiosity is the key to discovery. Newton's simple questions about the world. Why do apples fall? Why do planets move? Led to some of the greatest discoveries in history. So always stay curious and always ask, why? Second, hard work can beat talent. Newton wasn't born a genius. He worked tirelessly, he studied relentlessly, and he never gave up even when life was difficult. Third, failure is a part of success. Newton faced criticism, challenges, and even failures, but he never let these things stop him. Instead, he used them as motivation to improve his work. And fourth, humility is a strength. Despite all his fame, Newton remained humble. He acknowledged the contributions of others and always gave credit to the giants who came before him. Today, more than 300 years after his death, Newton's ideas are still shaping our world. Every time we launch a rocket into space, design a new machine, or study the stars, we are building on Newton's legacy. His life reminds us that one person with enough determination and vision can make a difference that lasts for centuries. Newton's story is a powerful reminder that greatness does not come easily. It requires dedication, resilience, and the courage to think differently. So let his journey inspire you to work hard, to stay curious, and to always aim for the stars. Isaac Newton's life teaches us one powerful truth. Greatness is not born, it is built. He did not start as a genius. He became one through incredible hard work, deep curiosity, and a refusal to give up no matter how hard his life got. Now think about your own dreams. Maybe you want to learn something new, build a career, or do something that changes the world for the better. Remember, every great journey starts with a single step. You do not need to be perfect today. You just need to take that first step, work hard, and believe in yourself. Newton started as a small, quiet boy on a farm, but he dared to dream big. If he could overcome his challenges, then so can you. The world is waiting for your brilliance, your ideas, and your success. Don't stop because you are afraid. Don't quit because it is hard. Keep going because one day people might be telling your story to inspire others. If this story motivated you, if you believe in the power of never giving up, please hit the like button and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel because together we will keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for the stars. You have greatness inside you. Now go take that first step and start your journey. Your future is waiting.